Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July board meeting for CalHSTA. We're going to be talking about transit clubs, all about how to create and operate them in today's meeting. This is the public session. We released announcements of this a little bit late, which is why we do not have that many members. But if you would like to comment, please just raise your hand and we will do our best to call on you if the time permits. All right, let's get started with slide one. So, how do you found a club to begin with? How do you create a high school transit club? So each high school has individual application requirements, and you may need to refer to your school's website or a club page for a specific application material. Typically, it requires you to have club bylaws, to have a teacher advisor for your club, and also just a bunch of information about who you are, what you're trying to do, and why. And so today we'll be talking all about that. In this slide here, we can go over the officer structure as well. So typically in a high school club, you will have a president at the top, a vice president, a treasurer, and then a secretary. Sometimes the treasurer and secretary roles are optional. For most of them, though, you should have these base four with optional roles like social media or PR managers. And then for club bylaws and rules, these can vary on how strict they are depending on your school. You should probably refer to your school's policies for just how strict your own bylaws need to be, and if your school has its own policies on top of your own individual club bylaws. I'll have some reference resources on the next slide. So if you're viewing this slide from the link, then you can click on the resources after the meeting is over. And then for meetings and advisors, typically you should establish when you want to meet with your club members, whether that be once a week, bi-weekly, or once a month. And your advisor typically has to be present at every single meeting, so just make sure that they're available when you're hosting. Here are some resources that will be made available after this meeting finishes. The slide deck will be linked on the CalHSTAtransit.org website. So if you came from there, this slide deck will be posted with these links. And then, as I mentioned earlier, keep in mind that your school may have unique requirements for its club application process. So whatever is here may not be all that you need. You might need like a budget template, for example, for dealing with money. You might need to have clearance through your teachers before you even fill out an application. All right, moving on to what to consider for creating a high school club. So aside from just the strict requirements for actually filling out the application and creating a high school transit club, you need to consider what you're going to do with it. And so here we have three points that I deem are extremely important. The first one is gathering members and actually having a member base. Because if your club is just your officers and you don't have actual members that are participating, you're at danger of your club dying and maybe getting rejected in the next application cycle. So gathering members is one of the most important parts of your club, and we'll go over a little bit more about the factors that fall into this category. Typically, when you're first creating a club to begin with, you want to have a baseline for a few select people that are basically RSVPing into saying, yes, I'll be present at your interest meeting, or I'll be attending your club for the school year. Some applications may require you to also just to have a list of names of students that are willing to attend your club before you can even fill out the application form. As for missions and goals, it's important to have a direction for your club. If you're just creating the club because you just enjoy transit, you should be thinking further about what you want to do with your club, what the goals are. For example, one goal could be we're trying to spread awareness to youth about riding transportation, about public infrastructure, and all these adjacent items. Your mission might be we're trying to advocate for some regional transportation measure or whatever it may be. And then, kind of falling under the same category as gathering members, you also need to take into consideration activities and member participation. So in your club meetings, you're going to have to do something, whether that be present a slideshow or host an activity like a Kahoot or a questionnaire. And your members are going to have varying degrees of participation. So depending on how actually interested they are in your club content, that can definitely vary your repeat members really significantly. So you should definitely take into consideration what activities you're going to be doing in your meetings. And this also doesn't fall under just meetings. You may think about out of school meetings or activities, such as wayfinding projects or volunteering opportunities for your members. Think about what you can do with your club outside of just the school environment as well. As for a little bit more on meetings, there's 5 points I think that fall under meetings that are really important. The first one is the meeting structure. So we already established that you need to figure out what day of the week you want to be meeting or what time of day you want to be meeting as well. So for example, my club meets weekly on Fridays at lunch. And your structure will depend significantly on how much time you have allotted to you. Our lunch, for example, is 30 minutes, but because of the way people at my school flow, it's actually only like 20 minutes of actual discussable time. So you want to really make sure that your meeting structure fits within your time constraint. And this structure can go from all sorts of directions. What I'm meaning here is kind of how you're going to structure the time of your meeting to actually fit within your constraints and what you're going to be doing with this time. So that also kind of ties into topics because what you're doing with your time really relies on what you're trying to discuss during the meeting. So your topic could be about advocacy, it could be about a piece of infrastructure, or it could be about a metropolitan city. It can really be about anything you want it to be as long as it falls underneath your club's goals and direction. As for engagement, that also goes hand in hand with your topics. You probably want to select topics that you're passionate about, but also take into consideration what your members would like to hear from you. So think about giving out surveys and questionnaires to your members about what topics they would like to see, as this would likely boost engagement. Some other tactics you can employ are if you have funds, which we'll talk about later, you can buy candies and give out candies or various prizes and awards for participation. For example, at my club, we give out Jolly Ranchers occasionally for when people answer questions. And speaking about questions, you can also just offer a bunch of questions to your members, or you can make it like an open forum fishbowl discussion. As long as they're participating, it's good for the club, even if it detracts from your actual meeting time. You'd rather have your members engaged and participating in your material than just presenting a speech where no one's actually interested and they're all just on their phones. Or maybe even worse, you lose your members because their attention's not there. And then as for slides and speakers, this kind of falls under the executive roles of your club. So typically the president and vice president, from what I've seen. Normally the slide creation process can be whatever you want it to be. So it can be from all board members, it can be from people in the public. But for my club, we structure it so the slides are created by the president and the vice president, and then the people who create the slides are typically the speakers as well. Of course, this can be different depending on how you want to structure your club. If you decide that your secretary should speak, then you can by all means let them speak. And then at the bottom here, we have guest speakers. So one of the most powerful things you can do for club engagement during your meetings is having a guest speaker. This can be done over Zoom or in person. You can have someone from a local agency come out to your high school and physically sit in and speak to your club members. Um, Typically, to achieve this, it requires a lot of effort in terms of actually reaching out to organizations, your local transportation agency, or whatever operator may be nearby. It may take a few tries, but it is really worth it. Once you get one guest speaker, it's easier to get more. And every guest speaker typically sees a lot more engagement than just the same person, just the same me, going up to the front of the class and speaking to them. So you should really try to get guest speakers. On this next slide, I have some more resources. So this top one is an example of one of my slide decks that I use for my club. And then I also have the Sure Transit general meeting slides linked here as another example. And as I have at the bottom here, just make sure that you don't run out of time because one of the biggest issues is if you run out of time, then you'll have content that you didn't get to and your meeting feels incomplete. But also don't put too little content because if you don't have enough content, then your meeting will run dry. Now, this actually could be a good thing if you know how to use this dry time well. For example, you can give this time to ask your members questions if they have any, or you can just have a discussion with your members and whatever you want to do with this time. I also don't have something there, but there's something that's pretty important in most clubs, which is attendance. So you may want to have an attendance form, some sort of QR code that your people scan at the club, and you may want to also include a password if you don't want people to fake their presence. And this attendance can go towards giving out prizes, giving out awards, or also just keeping track in general of how many people are part of your club. Because having an idea of the number of people present at your club that are actually participating is good to let you know for what you should change with your content, how you can change your procedures, and just all the operation wise, what you can do to improve the numbers if you need to. Now, moving on to actual just operational things, one of the biggest factors is advertising. Advertising is extremely powerful for not only just channeling new members into your club, but also doing stuff with your club. Because if you don't advertise your activities and events and your club in general, no one's going to hear about it and no one's going to show up except for the same amount of people that you have the whole school year. In fact, this number will only continue to trickle down if you do not actively look for more members. So this advertising can take form in many ways. One of my favorite ways is social media posts. So we all know that Instagram is really popular right now, along with other websites like Twitter, X, Facebook, stuff like that. If you have social media accounts, typically you can make posts or even reels and stuff like that. Short form content typically takes off, and this will attract a lot of people that you normally wouldn't be able to attract if you just like spoke to them in person or tried to do in-person advertising. As for in-person advertising, you can indeed still do in-person advertising through the form of flyers, posters, and one of my favorite event is Club Day. It might also be called Club Fair or Club Bowl at your school. It's the day where everyone comes out of their classes for a few minutes and you get to walk around a bunch of tables. Maybe people are tabling with trifolds, or maybe they're just talking in front of a stand. But this day typically is where all the clubs from your school come together and advertise their club. So at club day, you really want to stand out, and this can be done with whatever measures you'd like to take. This year, my club is thinking about more extreme measures, such as taking like a spinning sign to attract more attention. Really, it doesn't matter how wild you go, as long as you make club day count. It'll be worth it, because one of the most important things from club day is that it's the pinnacle of advertising. It is the sole opportunity you have at the very beginning of the school year to advertise to absolutely everyone at your school, no matter how big your student body may be. If you miss this opportunity, it becomes really hard to get new members to join. Yes, you can still do social media posts towards the end of the year, but if they haven't even heard of your club at the beginning, they're not going to just see a post and want to come. So your club day really needs to count. And then at the bottom here, I have incentives. So this can take place in anywhere part of your club. My favorite is at club day. If you give out, for example, prizes like Jolly Ranchers for filling out an interest form. Or what you can do is get one of those like spinning wheels. I don't know if you guys have been to like a fair and seen one of those wheels. You can just spin it and you get an award as long as you come to the table and say hi and you listen to their pep talk. And although this might seem like a money drain, I'll be explaining how you can ensure that you don't go into a deficit shortly. But incentives are really powerful for keeping engagement and finding new members to join the club. It's the foot in the door psychological technique where you get them to initially join you, but then they stick along not for that reason anymore, but they stick along rather because your club is just that interesting. Here I have some examples. Over here is a trifold poster that my club made for Club Fair 2025, so last year. And you'll notice here that it's very simple. There's not too many words because the more words that are on your poster, the less people are going to want to stop by and actually look at it. So we just plastered some QR codes at the top so that they wouldn't be blocked by people just standing in front of our poster, and then just some very, very basic things. And you don't see it here, but we were giving out Jolly Ranchers and handing out flyers for our club as well. And then here on the resources, you can find my Instagram for my club as well as Lincoln Tap's Instagram. And if you go into the CalHSTA transit.org website, you can find other examples of our club's websites, our club's Instagrams, and whatever socials they may have. And this can give you an idea of what type of content you typically would like to post on a club Instagram or how you want to run a website, maybe. All right, so moving on to the monetary aspect. Typically, like I said, you'll have a treasurer. Some clubs have an optional role for treasurer, but the treasurer is actually more important than you probably think, because the treasurer's duty can work closely with the president in raising money, whether that be through donations or fundraising with various organizations. So, the reason why fundraising is so powerful is because with this money, you can basically spend reasonable degrees of money on whatever you may need for your club without going into a deficit. Now, yes, you can't just take this money and profit with it, but still, it's really beneficial to basically be able to pull funds out of a pool instead of your own pocket to spend on items. So I was mentioning earlier, Jolly Ranchers at club day or even in meetings, you can just buy a bag without feeling guilty because it doesn't go from your own wallet. No one in your club is taking a deficit. In fact, your club is doing more by fundraising. You're giving yourself more opportunity to do more. So even though it may seem really difficult at the beginning, I think fundraising is one of the most important aspects for clubs and it's extremely underrated. At your school, there's probably only like 10% of the clubs that are doing fundraising. In terms of spending opportunities, I mentioned earlier that you can buy incentives. So, for example, Dry Ranchers or maybe drinks. And at my club, we do donuts every week. So all of our members get donuts, and this comes out of our club budget. So no one actually takes a deficit. It's really amazing. Even I get a donut, and I'm running the meeting. Um, on top of just incentives, you can also have stuff like merch, and you can literally offer your members hoodies and stuff for free. No one has to buy it. It comes out of your club account. On top of that, you can also buy advertising materials. So if you need to print out posters from Walgreens, you can go there and pay out of your club budget. Basically, you get the idea. Having club funds just in the back of your mind is good to have in the sense that you're going to be able to purchase mostly anything that's reasonable without having to feel guilty and spending it from your own wallet. As for managing funds, this typically falls under the treasurer's role. You may have to work really closely with your school depending on how strict they are. A lot of fundraising organizations don't really allow you to fundraise unless you have a strict program set where they know where the money is going to go. Because, of course, we don't want to be corrupt clubs where we just pocket the money and make profit, if that makes sense. On this slide, I have some examples. So over here, there are some companies that I have personally worked with in the past. Of course, you may have different local organizations depending on where you live. And these organizations typically have two options of fundraising. One way is to directly go to the website and they'll have a section for fundraising inquiries. And it's one of those website boxes where you just fill out a bunch of information, including your contact info, and they'll basically reach out back to you in an email form. The other option is you can directly call the center, the company, whatever it may be, and ask to see their fundraising ahead. Or if you just call directly the manager, you may be able to speak with them. Some of these chains have more relaxed options, but typically for companies like Chipotle, they'll make sure that everything is really set. And you may also need to find forms like tax forms and official documents like that, which can be really hard to come by. But if you work closely with your school's budgeting person, whoever it may be, you can form a triangle between you, your treasurer, and your representative from the school office that can help you handle this process. Like I said, it's really scary when you first start, but once you start your first fundraiser, it becomes really, really simple after that. And it's something that you can just repeat over and over again. Here I also have a budget sheet linked, so to keep track of your monetary spending and allocations. Um, because you don't really want to wonder where like $50 went if you just somehow lose it. It's really nice to keep track of what you're spending money on and the sources that you're getting it from. All right, so talking a little bit more about activities, and this is more than just this is a slide deck that I'm hosting for a meeting. This is more like what can we do with our clubs? Because yes, it's great if you have a slide deck at like all your meetings, but if it becomes repetitive, then no one's going to come and it'll become boring. So here I have four examples. You can think of whatever you may want to add on top of this. These are my suggestions. So the first one is volunteer opportunities. CalHSTA has done a wayfinding project in Southern California, and each individual club has also done similar projects. For my school specifically, we partnered with our local CSF club, which is the California Scholarship Federation. It may be called something else in your area, or maybe you're more familiar with the term the National Honor Society. So even if you don't work with a club in one of your schools, like the NHS or CSF, you could probably partner with other volunteer organizations in your area. For example, I know in the Bay Area we have Youth for Good or Play Foundation. So similar names that you can find in your local area, reach out and ask them, hey, can we form a volunteer opportunity? I'll create this activity and you'll just award the hours in a formal way. We also have member tournaments at our school. So basically, with the slide decks that we've been providing them, if they want to test their knowledge, they can participate in a tournament where we give out prizes like more donuts or something like that. And this is just like a few mini games. So what you can do is you can have Kahoots and Blue Kits like I have on the slide deck, or you can have more creative games like closest guess to a number wins. For like, for example, what is the ridership of BART in 2025? Um, and just having these fun mini games, although you might not teach it directly in your clubs, is good because it basically is just engagement opportunities for your members. And then at the very bottom here, I also have transit trips. So even if it's not actually just having a full day trip, if you just go out and ride transit with your members or you offer them the opportunity to experience transportation for real in the actual wild, it's really nice to basically just get out of the classroom and instead of lecturing your members to have them go on a field trip and actually experience it. And also in this trip, you can just bond with your members as well. Moving on to organization. So typically your accounts will have a lot of various structural components, like I mentioned. And so with your different officers all managing different things and having like an attendance form and stuff, it can get really cluttered. So I highly recommend creating a Google account that everyone can access. If not, that's fine. Just have the president or some central organization host a folder with all the resources underneath it. So if you ever need to find it, you can just click into the folder and manage everything at once. This is really nice for finding every material that you may need in the same location, and you're not looking around for some random obscure document in your Google Drive. Also, having a calendar is really nice. Calendar to schedule your regular meetings or have guest speakers come in, knowing which days are special, or even referring to your school calendar, like which days you have off, where you can maybe host like a transit trip to your local major city. Also, having emails and outreach organized is really nice because, for example, whether it be your secretary, vice president, or president that does emails, it's really nice to figure out who you're emailing, what you've done with them, and having an outreach person dedicated to figuring out and coordinating with other organizations because you will eventually expand beyond just your club. And even if that's just outreaching to CalHSTA, it's definitely nice to just have someone and have an organized location where you can see all this stuff happen. And then lastly, school policies and compliance is also really important. So of course you can't create a club if you don't follow your school policies. So like I mentioned earlier, yes, you have club bylaws. You also may have something called like a code of conduct, for example. So just make sure and ensure that you are following all the policies that you have to. That's it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand, and I or any other board member will comment. And for offline comments, please just contact our socials. So if you go to CalHSTAtransit.org, you'll find all the socials to contact us.
Thank you, Enzo. I'll be monitoring the hand raising. We're not currently allowing non-board members to turn on their camera. So if you do wish to speak, please go ahead and use the Zoom hand raise button.
Um, it's not letting me turn my camera on either.
My bad. Give me 1 second. Alrighty, you should be able to now, David. Yes, Mason.
Mason, go ahead.
Hello everyone. That was
Hello,
a very nice
Mason.
presentation and very beautiful photos. I wonder who
Thank
put them in.
you.
So regarding for those who are new here, hi, I'm Mason. I'm former president of the Sure Transit Club. So I just want to add a little comment about transit trips. I like to emphasize the importance of asking for forgiveness than permission. Because our club chose to reach out to our principal to see if we could do transit trips, and that was pretty much a guaranteed no. So I think if you're going to host a transit trip, keep it kind of in the club, kind of low key, and again, just ask for forgiveness than permission. Because if you're gonna ask for permission, your school's gonna say no, and they accept responsibility when they say no.
hmm So, I mean, I would add on to that. I can't officially tell you not to ask your school for permission. But I will say school liability can be very fraught. There's a limited amount of things schools want to deal with. So if you're going to do a trip, consider is there a way to do this off of school time, not as a school event, and see if that can help you avoid a lot of liability issues. Leon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was. My name is Leon. My name is Ming Xie, otherwise known as Leon. I am the founder and former president of the Alhambra Transit Enthusiast Union Club in Alhambra High School. So, the thing we did is we scheduled our trips outside of school hours, so like after school during the weekends and stuff.
Yeah, I will comment that actually getting official approval to run transit trips is extremely difficult. So if you do want to fall under your school policy, what I recommend is you can notify your teacher advisor about what you're doing, but make it clear that it's not part of the club, like officially part of the club. Because if you're just a band of 10 friends, there's literally nothing the school can do to stop you. Just say that you're going on a fun trip with your friends. Just don't brand it underneath your club, or then you can get into some gray zones.
Um, I had a thought in my mind about the also make sure to have like somewhat like an adult or something to supervise. Wouldn't that be agreeable during like trade trips?
If you think the trip requires it, yes. I do not necessarily think every trip that you're holding off school hours requires chaperones, but definitely yes. The other thing I would say is ensure your especially if your trip involves rail, ensure that you're giving students necessary safety tips, such as standing behind the yellow line. Obviously, the school not accepting responsibility means you are accepting responsibility.
Yeah, that is true.
Do we have anyone else?
Hello, how do I raise my hand?
Uh,
Oh, you just click react and then
yeah, react and then hand raise. Who was that?
no.
Me.
Alrighty, Mason, I see your hand up. Why don't you go? And then I still didn't catch who that was before, so hang on one second. Mason, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, that was Conrad.
Oh, okay, cool.
Um,
Mason, did you have something you wanted to say first, though?
yeah. So when we started Sure Transit Club, I felt I was pioneering a lot of it myself, and I think you guys will, whoever started new transit clubs, I think you'll find that just not as many people are interested into public transportation as you thought. So you always have to appeal to appeal generally to people. Like for example, with transit trips, yes, it's fun to. I'm pretty sure all of us here find it fun to, I don't know, ride BART all the way from Millbrae to Dublin. But if there's no purpose to doing that, then people just simply just won't go. Like you have to have some destination. I've found that museums are very good destinations, and also include things like restrooms and food around. As for meeting topics, again, I think all of us find it fun to yap about, I don't know, like GIS and signs and all, but not everyone will find that interesting. So for like college, for October, that was college month, especially a lot of our members were seniors. We did a presentation on transit to colleges. So again, you always want to appeal generally, not just have fun transit enthusiast nerd stuff, as much as we love it. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
And Mason, I do hope your Transit to Colleges presentation included extensive 101 discussion.
Sadly, no. I'm sorry.
Aw,
Only LA area.
aw. Alrighty. Conrad.
By 101. Sorry.
I have a question, but real quick before I ask it, can I like get a little bit more like information about what this transit to college thing is that Mason was talking about?
Yeah, sure, Mason, if you want to share some more on that.
Okay, low key, it was kind of a last minute presentation, like on the second to last week of October or something, because I was just writing out the ideas for meetings. So in our presentation, we included like, oh, here's how you get to Cal State LA. Here are the buses. Oh, and here are many colleges, universities in the areas subsidize your transit passes. Some even get free passes. So yeah, that's kind of what we talked about for them to make transit a bit more attractive if they are going to college. Yes, I
I see the
see.
go past
I
staff
see that.
car.
I see that specifically community college, or
Yeah,
is
I
it?
actually got that because I was doing dual enrollment.
Nice,
Oh, okay.
nice.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, my high school didn't do that. I initially thought about like making AUSC do it, but realized like because my brother was in ASB for college. He mentioned how expensive it probably would be. So I think AUSC would probably be really hesitant on that idea.
I uh
But
I
like I
wish I
would
had
definitely
my
mention about student tap cards, which are 75 cents.
I wish I had my whole tab card collection on me.
I
Alas,
have more.
it is
I have way
alas, it is
more. I
upstairs.
have more.
Hell yeah. Okay, Conrad.
Okay, so this question concerns whether the transit clubs will be solely focused on transit, because I have one that's kind of a little bit focused on pedestrianization, because that's something that my area kind of could work on.
John Marshall High School,
Like,
right?
yeah, wait, what?
That's your school?
Yeah, Marshall High School,
Okay.
LAUSD, the first LAUSD in this entire union. Um, Anyways, there's another club at my school that was also started at the same time, run by my friend, but it's basically like it's about bicycles, and I was like, it's like on the other day. So like I was wondering if like we could have a club that just unifies all of those type of people instead of just have like these ones go here, these ones go here, like because we back kind of like all unite under the same principles of like wanting like clean, safe infrastructure and policy. And I was just wondering if like the Transit Alliance is like specifically for transit or like uniting all those types of people.
So I'll say we do have clubs in the Alliance that are kind of more generally infrastructure or transportation focused. That's certainly not a problem. I think Enzo can probably speak more as to whether or not you should combine them.
Yes, so my club is actually called Public Transit and Infrastructure. So half of our meetings are breaking down infrastructure items such as like interchanges and stuff like that, or road design or transit-oriented development. I personally advise you to keep them separate, but if you want to join them together, you could use a term, something similar like urban spaces or something. I'm not really sure how you would do it, but definitely we would invite you to join the club if or to join CalHSTA if you would like to, because it's still under the same umbrella as all this urbanization stuff.
I will say pedestrianized JMHS is already an Alliance club. They were the last club we
Oh,
accepted.
okay, okay, great.
Mason, and I think that'll be all the time we have. But Mason, if you wanna, were you raising your hand?
Oh, yes. Okay, so John Marshall High School's club isn't the only one using this general like mobility topic.
Uh-huh.
There's also Mark Keppel Urban
Urban
Futures
Futures.
Collective
Yeah.
down here in LA, or sorry, down here in Alhambra.
By
And they're
Mark.
more about
Mhm.
road design and pedestrian safety. And they include public transportation. So your club doesn't like have to solely be about public transportation like some of our clubs. But if it's even a topic, I think it shouldn't drive you away from like California High School Transit Alliance.
Yeah. Yeah, we do welcome those more general clubs. Conrad, one more, and then we really do have to wrap it up.
All right, this is kind of the same topic, but through like for like the whole Transit Alliance, like in general, like I don't know if this is like a an appropriate place to talk, like ask about something like this, but like I was just wondering if like maybe the types of clubs that would be attracted by this, like maybe they would just see it as like for foamers or something, and like maybe a lot of people just kind of want to be like bicyclists. Maybe they want to be just like sustainability advocates, like safety advocates. There's a whole lot of people, and I feel like it might be smart to like make it more about umbrellas or something. I don't know.
I definitely think we want to welcome those clubs. We want to make it clear that we're welcoming those clubs, but I think we're also weary of diluting the work the Alliance does as a whole. We really do want to stay focused. If that means to some people we come off as a foamer org, I don't know. That's not necessarily our problem.
Yeah, I like your comment. I think we can definitely maybe modify our branding slightly to make it clear that everyone who wants to join the alliance that has a club kind of like you're describing is welcome to. But yeah, as Samuel said, we probably want to remain focused on transportation itself.
Alrighty.
Also, sorry, I also like to mention maybe also probably try also like if there's also other like clubs that exist that that go to the rail field that because I know some of you guys mentioned about it. I would say also align like kind of align yourself like form a coalition like like train trip combining the two, for example.
Thank you. I think we do need to wrap up the meeting now. Thank you for everyone for attending. And I think our next meeting will be in August for sure. There'll be another public session, so if you'd like to attend, feel free to join. If you're watching this offline, feel free to reach out to one of our socials, whether that be Instagram or email or Discord or something else, and we will do our best to respond. Thank you so much, everyone.